Guys, what's up? Day 78, 100 Days of LeetCode. We got number 419, Battleships in a board. Let's do it. So we're given an M by N matrix board where each cell is a battleship X or an empty period. And we want to return the number of battleships on the board. And battleships can only be placed horizontally or vertically on board. In other words, they can only be made of the shape 1 by K or K by 1. One row, K columns, K rows, one column. And K can be any size that obviously fits on the board. And there's always going to be at least one horizontal or vertical cell between two battleships. Now, this is going to be very important to our solution, and we'll see how it's important to our solution. So here, of course, we have two battleships. This X right here is one battleship. This series of X's here is one battleship. And yeah, that's the only visual example it gives us. The other example here is, of course, a board with just one empty space, and that, of course, is 0. Down here, that gives us a follow-up, and we're going to basically solve it according to this follow-up. And the follow-up says, can you do it in one pass using only O1 extra memory and without modifying the values in board? Now, the solution that uses that modifies the value board would be very similar to the solution I posted for number of islands, and that is a depth first search solution where basically every single time you find a battleship, you switch all of the adjacent squares to periods, so you're really only counting whenever you find X's. We're not going to be doing that though, because we want to not have to modify the values on the board. So we're going to look at what that solution looks like. So let's do it. So the first thing we want to do is we want to say if the length of board, and I got to remember I'm writing Python code here, I don't need those brackets, is 0, we're going to return 0. All right, if there's no board, there are no battleships. That's very easy and intuitive. We're going to create the count variable. We're going to set that equal to 0. And now we are going to iterate through the matrix. So we're going to do basically a nested for loop. We're going to say for I in range, the length of board, for J in range, the length of board I. And now what we're going to check is essentially, we're going to check whether or not the particular square that we're at is the top left corner of a battleship. Okay? And we're only going to increment the count if we find the top left corner of a battleship. And the reason why we're doing that is because there is at least one horizontal or vertical cell in between two battleships, meaning that if we find something that we can see isn't the top left corner of a battleship, we should not be counting that because we have already counted it in basically one of our previous iterations. So basically, let's look at what that looks like. So now what we want to do is we basically want to say if board I J is equal to X. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. The reason why we're doing that is because X's denote the battleships. So the first thing that we have to check for is whether or not we're at a square that has an X. Now we want to do an and we're going to put some stuff in brackets. We're going to do an and, we're going to put some more stuff in brackets. And I'm sorry, those are parentheses. I should be saying parentheses. Okay, so in this first set of brackets, we're basically going to check whether or not there is an X to the left of us. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're basically going to be saying I equal to 0 or board I minus 1 J is equal to just a period. So let's think about this. Basically, if our I is equal to 0, well, we now know that there is no X to the left of us, right? Because we're over here, so there cannot be an X to the left of us because that would not be in the actual board, okay? And obviously, if we're anywhere else and our board I minus 1 J has a period in it, then we know that there is no x to the left of us. So we're all set there. Okay? And then here, we're going to do sort of the exact same logic, except we're going to be using j. And we're going to be saying j equals 0 or board I j minus 1 is equal to period. And if we get through that entire Boolean statement, then we are going to add 1 to the count. And that should be working code. Let's see. Yeah, that's working code. So that was day 78. If you guys enjoyed that, please like, subscribe. We'll be back on Monday with day 79. Take care.